Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Futenoff coming to you live from our studio in sunny downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. It's the same number. You can call, you can text 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Friday, that means Dan Shafer will be here at 10:33 so we can recombobulate. Dan Shafer from the recombobulation area. And now part of Civic Media.
Woot, woot, co-worker.
Woot. Yes, very happy about that. My first chance to talk to him.
Oh, that's right.
Since the news was announced. So looking forward to that. Dan Shafer coming up at 10:33.
Absolutely.
Next hour, 11:33. If you have a resident young person who is interested in aviation.
Yes.
You want to stick around at 11:33. We're going to be talking to two people associated with the EAA and the Young Eagles program. And Ed Becerra is a pilot, and Tracy Miller actually helps run the Young Eagles program, which is aimed at getting more kids interested in aviation.
And it's not just about flying. I learned this last year listening to interviews at the EAA last year when I produced a show. That industry is always hiring trained people.
Oh, yeah. Mechanics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of different avenues you can take within aviation.
Exactly.
So it should be a very interesting discussion. That is coming up at 11:33. If you can stick around for that. Want to remind you as well, tomorrow, Saturday morning, Waukesha Farmers Market in the parking lot of the Waukesha State Bank, downtown Waukesha. The farmers market runs from 8 to noon. I will be there from 9 to 11 tomorrow, along with our helper, David. We have the Wheel of Prizes, Greg Bach.
Do you smell something, Jane?
I smell scones of peace.
Scones of peace are coming.
Scones of peace.
They're on the horizon. They shall arrive sometime in the morn of Saturday. We call tomorrow.
If you would like to have a long conversation, I'm going to be out there for a couple of hours. I invite you to come and join me tomorrow morning, 9 to 11 at the Waukesha Farmers Market. We've got a couple of chairs.
Yeah.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee. We can share a scone of peace. And you can talk to me as long as you like.
Maybe some of the individuals who were so hepped up on Earl's show earlier want to stop by.
Come on by.
A scone of peace.
I would love to meet you. I mean that.
Yes.
I really do. Come on down. We'll have a nice long conversation. You could talk as long as you want.
But keep the volume respectable.
Well, Dave, I got my sidekick, David's there.
I know, but
he looks out for me.
But also, I will say this, folks. Those scones of peace are for real.
Oh, yeah.
The coffee is real. And Jane is legit bummed when she comes in on Monday and no one takes her up on the offer.
I would like to meet you.
Yeah.
I genuinely would. So tomorrow morning, Waukesha Farmers Market. The market runs from 8 to noon. I will be there from 9 to 11. Look for the Civic Media tent and stop on by for some coffee and a scone of peace. If a scone's not your thing, we can do a cookie of peace. There's all kinds of food.
Trust me, folks, you want one of these scones.
Maple bacon scone will change the course of your life.
And it's not just that; it's the fact that they're not dry and you don't have to use them as a doorstop.
Exactly, or dunk them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're almost pre-dunked.
You know what? Get scones of peace. Get a lot of them, and then nobody show up on a Monday. I get to have leftover scones of peace because they're just as tasty.
I bought $25 worth of scones a couple months ago, and I was like, "Please take a scone."
I think I ate like $17 worth of them.
Come and have a scone of peace. If not, just come to the Waukesha Farmers Market. Fabulous produce, some of the most beautiful produce. I mean that very sincerely too. And lovely, lovely people down there at the Waukesha Farmers Market. So I hope to see you down there tomorrow. We are going to start off. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Since we did a version of All the Best People, Greg Bach.
Yeah.
All the best people, Donald Trump said going into his first administration, he would surround himself with nothing but all the best people.
Yes.
Tragically, most of all those best people didn't last the entire administration. A lot of them got fired.
Well, those weren't the best people.
Obviously not.
No.
And then, of course, there were all the people who resigned after January 6th.
Still not the best people.
Not the best people, apparently. But this guy is certainly one of Donald Trump's best people.
Yes.
He is loyal as the day is long. Stephen Miller.
MAGA Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
Like first ballot.
Oh, definitely. Stephen Miller, who will have a very active role in a second Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been out talking about some of the plans of former President Trump, what his administration will do. Of course, they're all now about entire cities and towns being taken over by Venezuelan gangs and Haitian immigrants who are here legally, by the way, in Springfield, Ohio.
Yep.
They're here legally.
Yeah. And they're not eating your dog.
No, they're not eating your pets. But Stephen Miller out on the stump for Trump earlier this week, talking about, and Donald Trump has said this repeatedly, that the crime rate now in Venezuela is so low because all of the criminals from Venezuela have been released and sent here to the U.S.
Okay.
Let's play, Calvin, this first clip from Stephen Miller. Take a listen to this.
The crime rate in Venezuela is down, I believe, a little bit over 60% over the last several years.
Are you trusting the official figures from the Venezuelan dictatorship?
Let's put it this way. If you're a dictator of a poor country with a high crime rate, wouldn't you send your criminals to our open border?
That wasn't my question. Are you trusting the figures of the dictatorships? Those are Maduro numbers.
I am believing that it is in the interest of a criminal dictator to let his criminals out of their jails and come to our country.
Do you have numbers, real numbers, not dictatorship numbers?
We're going to put a link to the video in our show notes after the show is over, because I really want you to be able to see Stephen Miller's face and the sweat factor as this conversation continues.
I'm also going to include a link to a website that I saw a while ago, because this Venezuelan number, this Venezuelan report they always bring up has been one of the through lines. It's always what they bring up. And I'm going to give you all the ability to read about the Venezuelan number, the crime numbers in Venezuela, and just why they are, in fact, lowering. It's because the economy is doing horribly. And when the economy is doing horribly, crime can sometimes relocate. And that's what they're doing. They're relocating to other South American countries. So I'll put that in the show note as well.
Andrew from Maine texting and listening here in Waukesha. Don't forget, all those best people don't want to work with him again. Yeah, there's that.
Those aren't the best people, Andrew.
Oh, they were not the best
They're not the best people. Laura Loomer.
So Stephen Miller, stumping for Trump, claims that the Venezuelan crime rate is down over 61%. And we have this young reporter who is asking him, where do you get these numbers? Are you getting these numbers from the Maduro administration? And if so, he's a dictator. Why would you believe his numbers?
Well, when your favorite guy name checks Viktor Orban, then all bets are off.
I guess.
Period.
Let's play clip number 2 from Stephen Miller as this exchange continues.
The Venezuelan gangs that have you've seen the CCTV footage. I have a question. Who do you think? Answer me this.
My family is from Venezuela. I know very well the situation of Caracas and many other cities.
Right, tell me, who were the people with the high-powered rifles in the hallway of that apartment building? Who were they?
They were gangsters from Venezuela.
Right. No American community.
But I was asking to you about figures, numbers,
what I'm
facts.
saying to you is the facts are the dead bodies. The facts are...
You said that Caracas has a lowest crime rate than the USA.
The facts are the mutilated bodies. The facts are the people in the morgues that are dead.
I was asking you about Caracas and the numbers in Caracas. Are you trusting the numbers of the dictatorship?
I am trusting the fact that Kamala Harris is letting illegal immigrants into this country who are raping and murdering children.
I had been very respectful. Why are you yelling?
Why are you yelling?
And again,
I want you to be able to see the video, because when he starts this exchange with this reporter, he's got this smug look on his face like, well, I got you now. This is what I know. I know dictators want to get rid of their bad elements. That's my fact. And then things aren't going so well for him, and he starts sweating and melting down and yelling. And all the guy's asking is, where are you getting your numbers from? Tell me where you're getting these numbers.
Yes.
Karina from Milwaukee is on the line. Good morning, Karina. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, guys. You know what? This is what I want to ask those people, because the criminals are not the old same criminals. Venezuela is a dictatorship. There are being done that in many countries, including Russia, where you will take a dissident, people who are against of actual ruler, mix them with the criminals, and then the what is it, association of what is it for human rights, they over 70s and 80s, they were advocated and removed, including that's why I know, saving their lives from the jails because they are dissidents. Those people are not criminals. Those people are protesters against of a tyranny. So there has got to be some sort of clarification, even if it's happening. Even if it's happening, I'm saying that let's pretend it's happening.
Yeah. Well, and I think you make a good point, Karina, in that, yes, people who speak out against his dictatorships are labeled dissidents and enemies of the regime.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they either jail you in that country or they kick them out of their country.
Yeah. And they automatically come here.
Naturally.
They automatically come here because that's where it's the easiest to crime.
Well, and again, all this reporter is asking is, where are you getting these numbers?
Yes.
That the crime rate in Venezuela is down over 60% in comparison to the crime rates in the U.S., and he just melts away.
Which is an absolute through line for them as well. You ask anyone, where are your numbers? Where are you getting information?
I don't need numbers.
Yeah, I don't need numbers. I don't know those numbers. I didn't check them out. Or they lose their mind.
Or they just know it in their bones, Greg.
Inherently.
And they know it inherently. We're going to keep this going. Keep the calls and texts coming. 855-752-4842. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied I'm on my way. I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied I'm on my way.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join us. You can call. You can text 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We are doing a round of all the best people. Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, on the stump for Trump earlier this week. And he made a claim that the crime rate in Venezuela is down over 60%, which is a pretty big number. And a reporter who happens to be Venezuelan who knows the country, who knows the cities, simply asked Stephen Miller, where are you getting these numbers? Are you getting these numbers from the dictator Maduro? You may want to question those if that's the case. And Tony on the live stream says, I saw this clip last night and I love the rising anger in Miller's face. It was wonderful. He genuinely looks baffled that someone is just not accepting what he said as gospel.
Oh my gosh.
Like, how dare you question me?
Well, it's the examples he uses. You know, he throws in names of people and the murdering, and he gets very visceral and violent and aggressive. And because you don't agree with him, therefore you must not care about the things that he cares about.
Well, you're siding with the Venezuelan gang members then.
And point of order, if you're listening here, this article that I will be linking was published in May of 2024, and from May of 2023 to 2024, the crime rates reported by the government fell by 25.1%.
In which country?
Venezuela. Now, if that is the government report, then it's a security
the
office,
source of the numbers.
but it's certainly not 60.
No, it is
It's not 60. In fact, some would say, I hear people saying that 60 is more than double 25. Some people are saying.
They might be right.
They might be right. I don't know. I don't know about it.
We have another clip from Stephen Miller after getting confronted by this reporter asking, where are you getting these crime rate numbers? Galvin, let's play clip number 3.
Do you know who Jocelyn Ungary is? Do you know who she is?
Do you know how
Tell me
many
who she is.
people
Who
is
she?
experiencing
Who is
violence
she?
in Caracas?
Who is she? Who is Laken Riley?
Why are
Who
you
is
yelling
she?
again?
Because I'm
Why
yelling
are you
because
yelling?
children are being raped and murdered.
I was just
by
asking for
illegal
figures,
immigrants.
and you have not
Children
replied
are
to me
being
about
raped
those
and
figures.
murdered. Do you know who Kayla
Do
Hamilton
you
is?
trust the numbers of
Do you know
Nicolas
her
Maduro?
story?
I'm asking
I
again.
trust a ruthless dictator will empty his prisons and send their criminals to our
Do
country.
you trust his numbers?
The most dangerous gang in Venezuela is
You
now
trust
occupying
Nicolas
apartment
Maduro?
buildings. I trust that he does not want his criminals to be.
So you believe in his numbers?
I believe he's sending his criminals to our country.
And
Do
do you
you
think
not-
that the crime rate in
Do you not
Venezuela
be-
have
but Do you
decreased?
not believe the law enforcement reports of Venezuelan gangs in this country?
I was asking for
Are
the Venezuelan
gangs-
government
are
figures,
Venezuelan
not
gangs
the
in this
figures
country or
here.
not? Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not? Yes or no?
What
Yes or
are
no?
the
Yes or
figures
no?
that you
Yes or
say
no?
to say
Yes
that
or no?
in,
Yes or
in
no?
Caracas
Yes
or
the
no?
number is
Are
lower than in the
Venezuelan gangs-
USA?
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not?
So you don't have numbers.
Just
Jake from Madison texting in, listening on WXCO. Notice how Stephen Miller can give one or two individual stories and turn that into millions of criminal migrants all over America.
Yeah.
Why don't he or other MAGAs, why aren't MAGAs 1 millionth as interested in the thousands of kids who deal with gun violence from their fellow Americans every year? Jake and Madison, thank you, Jake. They also don't seem to be terribly concerned about women who are victims of domestic violence, women
No.
and girls who are sexually assaulted. That doesn't seem to bother them unless it happens by someone who's a brown person
or a drag queen.
or a drag queen,
As long as it's not a cop or
a
minister
or a
and-
youth coach.
Exactly. It's or someone who's saved, they've done a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Those are the problems. And they have a solution for the gun problems in schools. We arm the teachers.
We need more guns.
Yes.
The problem with guns is there's just not enough.
We're at the point now where everyone gets 2 guns.
Well, they're not going to be happy until there's a gun in every baby's bassinet.
Yep. Oh, God.
So that's what you get at your baptism, is your first handgun. Let's play clip number 4, the final clip from Stephen Miller. Again, maintaining that the crime numbers in Venezuela are down over 60%, but he has no proof. Calvin, let's play clip number 4.
Are Venezuela? You know who has numbers? The Department of Homeland Security.
That's
You can
us.
ask Mayorkas for
Sesame
numbers.
Street.
You can ask the Director Ray for the numbers.
Sir,
I'm telling you.
You said
You think
that in
Nicolas
Venezuela
Maduro-
the crime rate is lower than the
Because-
USA.
Yes, because the
What are
criminals
your numbers?
here
That's
now.
my question.
Because the criminals are here now.
Those are Maduro's
I
numbers.
can tell you again that Border Patrol agents are encountering
Do you
thousands
trust
of gang
Maduro
members.
numbers?
I trust the border agents in our country.
But
and
they
I
are
hope
not
that
saying
you
that
have the
Caracas has a
fundamental-
lower crime rate.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not wasting
Children
your
are
time.
being raped.
I'm
Do
asking
you
for
have
facts
any
as
remorse
a
for the-
journalist.
Do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care at all about the dead children?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I want to leave you with, is that Donald Trump
I
will
was
come
just
to
asking
office.
for figures.
I'm just asking you to back up your claim that the crime rate in Venezuela is down 61%. That's what I'm asking you.
Where can you point me to that report? If, like, honestly, can I walk into a college statistics class and be like, here are my statistics. Where'd you get that from? The criminals are in America. That's just, they never have proof.
Or specifics. Except again, and as Jake pointed out, they'll bring up these two, it's terrible what happened to these.
Yes.
What happened to these people. It's terrible. But there are terrible atrocities, tragically, that happen in our country on a daily basis that are not being committed by migrants or immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to be the one to point this out, but the one thing that most perpetrators of crimes have in common is their gender. Sorry.
I require no apology, and I don't disagree with you.
God, I'm getting all Stephen Miller.
You're having a Stephen Miller.
Sweating. It's like, wow.
Are you
sorry?
Are you spouting out lies and non-facts?
It just makes me furious.
Absolutely.
It is infuriating. And I guess the one spark of joy that I get out of that exchange is seeing someone hold these people to account and asking for the proof.
Continually. And the way he does it,
he was so polite.
So polite, so calm. And that is what makes people like that so angry. When you approach him with kid gloves and say, hey, I just want to know where you got the information from.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for. I'm a journalist. I want to report. If crime is down in Venezuela or anywhere 61%, let's put a parade on. But I need those numbers first before, and you can't just say, don't you care about dead children? Who's going to say, you know what? I do not. You know who doesn't care about dead children? Stephen Miller, because he uses this example so much, it's nothing to him. He doesn't care about them. He doesn't care about anybody. He barely probably cares about Trump. He just cares about his own tuchus.
News is coming up next. By the way, I will be out at the Waukesha Farmers Market tomorrow.
You can drive all the way down
from 9 to 11. Come on by, sit down with me. We'll have a long, long talk and share a scone of peace.
Yeah.
Dan Shafer, when we return from the recombobulation area, you're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
So satisfied, I'm on my way. I see all good people turn their heads each day. So satisfied, I'm on my way. I see all good people turn their heads each day. So satisfied, I'm on my way. I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied.
welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and the Board Lord coming to you from our studio in sunny downtown Waukesha. You can always join us, call or text, same number, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Leon continues to actively ruin. He is not just the author of the Recombobulation Area, he is now the political editor for Civic Media. Dan Shafer is here. Good morning, sir. I'm glad to see you. I missed the big announcement because I was gone, but I did know that it was happening. So happy to have you with us here at Civic Media. You must be muted.
You're muted.
Thank you so much, Jane. Always wonderful to join you. Sorry, I was a little discombobulated for a second there, but we recombobulated quickly. And yeah, a little bit of news since I've been gone. How about that, Jane? How about that?
I knew nothing would happen while I was gone. And of course, absolutely nothing happened. No, I know Greg and Calvin did a great job keeping everybody up to date on what was going on while I was off for a couple of weeks. So thanks again for that. Big poll came out this week.
That's right. Absolutely. As I always do at the Recombobulation Area, I broke down the latest from the Marquette University Law School poll. And not just the top of the kind of the headline item from the poll that showed Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by a 4-point margin. But as always, really got into the details, got into the crosstabs, took a closer look at that Harris-Trump race, took a look at the first in-depth polling for Tim Walz, took a look at the latest from the Senate race between Tammy Baldwin and Eric Hovde. So lots to process, lots to digest, lots to recombobulate with. But I think we can start with the Harris-Trump head-to-head and where things stand there. You know, this poll does look pretty good for Kamala Harris. And I know that, we know Wisconsin's going to be a toss-up. We know things are going to be close. We know there's going to be many a campaign visit over the next 50-plus days in the state of Wisconsin. But I think the momentum appears to be on Harris's side. A 4-point lead in a 50-50 state is significant. She's also over 50%. So it's not like there's a lot of undecided voters in this race right now. That's always a significant metric to look at in this polling. And one of the things that really stood out overall is just the level of enthusiasm for Democrats. I noted this in the August poll, which was the first one with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, a huge jump from about 40% of Democratic voters saying they were enthusiastic about voting in November to up to 60% once the shift was made to Harris, and now up over 70% and ahead of Republicans, their level of enthusiasm for voting right now. So a huge shift over the last couple months there. And, Charles Franklin talked about this, and I have a podcast about that you can listen to after Matenaer On Air, of course, onto the Civic Media Network. But that enthusiasm often translates to turnout. And I think that is why, that is an important metric. It's one thing to just say, hey, the Democrats are excited. They're rallying around Kamala Harris. The DNC, appears to have given her a bit of a post-convention bump in Wisconsin here. But that matters because it translates to turnout. That enthusiasm translates to turnout. And with Democratic enthusiasm being as high as it is right now, that's a really strong indicator going into this final stretch. There's also, and I saw this in a number of places throughout the poll, there's a huge gender gap in politics in Wisconsin.
This is not a surprise.
In race after race, with men by and large supporting Republicans, and just a majority of men supporting Republicans and a majority of women supporting Democrats. And so in this poll, you see men backing Trump by a 10-point margin and women backing Harris by a 16-point margin. And then you also see that in some of the favorability numbers for each of the candidates too, where Trump's favorability with women is a net minus 25 and Harris is poor with men and a net minus 20. So I think, partially because you have, a woman and a man at the top of the ticket, there's going to be some level of divide on the gender gap there. But I think we're going to see some numbers that show that this gender gap is as wide as it has ever been in a presidential race. So fellow men out there, let's get it together a little bit, I think, right?
Well, one of the things that, I always think about is back to 2016 and 2020 is that, specifically 2016, you had a man and a woman running, and the 43% of white women who came out for Trump, and they talked about the gender gap, and then in 2020 it raised to 45%. So, well, I mean, those numbers are huge. I still have that nervous feeling, like at the end of the day, when someone can say like, I'm going to vote for this person, but when they get in the polling place and in that booth and they pull that arm or mark that ballot, they might be like, I'm going to vote what I think is.
Well, and I kind of agree with Greg, Dan, and I appreciate all the work that you do on the polls and breaking down the polls. Polls always make me twitchy.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember, yet, yes, the enthusiasm is one thing, but polls don't vote. Yard signs don't vote. Parades don't vote. Rallies don't vote. It still comes down to individual people. And we've talked about this quite a bit. I do think, especially among women and maybe even women in the WOW counties who are going to nod along with their husbands and their fathers and their uncles, and then they're going to go to the poll and they're going to cast their ballot and they're going to vote for Harris. I just think that there are more of those people out there than we realize.
Yeah.
And in order to keep the peace within their own little universe, they're going to nod and smile and go, yes, you're right. I love Trump. That's great. And then they're going to vote the other way.
He has so many concepts for plans.
So many concepts for plans. Yes. I have a concept of a plan.
Yeah. And I also think it's, I think I did some other research on this for the VP race too, and noted some things on that front with the gender gap as well, because I think it's not just Donald Trump, it's JD Vance too. And I don't think JD Vance is having a lot of success winning over some of those suburban women that maybe Donald Trump has lost and Republicans have lost over the years. So the net favorability numbers with women, Tim Walz is a +17 and JD Vance is a -21.
Youch.
So there is a huge gap between, those two candidates kind of coming onto the scene at similar times this summer. They have similar, similar kind of name recognition now with being in a part of the ticket. There's still about 20% of voters who don't yet have an opinion on either of them. But this is the first really robust polling on Tim Walz in Wisconsin. And one of the jokes that Charles Franklin always makes at these presentations is that nobody really likes anybody. All of these politicians have net negative favorability ratings. The one exception to that this year basically was maybe, there would be polls here and there where Tammy Baldwin would be like +1 or +2 or something like that. Tony Evers is pretty strong, +6, +7 range. And Tim Walz now joins them in that he is a +6 favorability rating in Wisconsin. And he is, if you look at the polling on Tim Walz, he is checking all the boxes you would want to see from a candidate running in Wisconsin. He's doing really well all over the state, and he's polling well. Let me see. I'll just pull up my numbers here. Strong marks with moderate voters. Solid net positive with voters who have a highest level of education is just a high school diploma. That's an area that Democrats have struggled previously. He's with voters over 60 years old. He's a net +10 and again, with women, he's +17. So he's really doing well in Wisconsin. And I think also, this poll also asked people to kind of self-identify, where they are ideologically in Wisconsin too. So you have some very conservative voters, you have some very liberal voters, but the largest group in Wisconsin is the moderates. And they took a look in this poll of just how do you see various candidates? Do you see them very far to one side or the other, or do you see them more moderate? Well, the candidate of the two presidential candidates and the two vice presidential candidates that was viewed the most moderate was Tim Walz. And Harris was viewed as more moderate than Trump, and Walz far more moderate than JD Vance. JD Vance is seen as more extreme and more conservative than even Donald Trump in this polling. And Tim Walz, seen by more than 20% of voters as moderate. Of course, many see him as liberal or very liberal, but there are far more voters seeing him as moderate than, I think it's less than 10% of voters who see JD Vance as moderate. So I think that is really going to matter for winning over some of those swing voters in so many different ways. And I think, as Walz continues to campaign, we know he's going to be campaigning around northern Wisconsin
Yes.
this weekend. The more stops Walz makes in Wisconsin, I think that is going to really help the ticket, because the polling shows that Walz is polling much better than Vance, and is really adding something to the ticket here in Wisconsin.
He joins us every Friday at this time. Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area, and also now the political editor for Civic Media.
It honestly doesn't surprise me that they see Trump as more moderate, because Trump doesn't commit. He's very happy to have gotten rid of Roe v. Wade. Well, I'm not in favor of it. He doesn't come off as strict as Vance does. He's
everything he says is a moving target. Like you
Yes.
can't, so
Yes.
people can kind of assign their own views onto Trump, because he doesn't have any like actual defined positions, because there always seem to be in flux. But Trump is not really seen as a moderate much at all. Again, it's like 10% of voters, but again, it's more than JD Vance, I guess.
Yeah.
Matt from Germantown had a text. He's listening here in Waukesha on WAUK. Didn't a Fox News host say if you vote for a woman, you transition to a woman? That was Jesse Waters.
Yeah, it was Jesse
Maybe
Waters.
that's why there's a big gender disparity. You might be onto something there, Matt. Not sure. Sure. But the likability factor, and boy, that JD Vance pick, they're never going to be able to shake that off. They're just never going to be able to shake him off. And I have to wonder what this is going to mean for his political career going forward, because he's so disliked now.
Oh, God.
Will he become more likable as time goes by? I don't know.
He just can't stop talking.
And he's not even adding things to the ticket in ways that I think they wanted him to add things to the ticket, because at the RNC in Milwaukee, a major theme of his speech was connecting with working class voters, and talking about taking a different approach than maybe some Republicans in the past. Well, one of the things that the Marquette poll does in their breakdown is breaks things down by income level, and where the support is coming from in these different races. Well, among those with an income less than $40,000, so maybe some of those working class voters that Vance is trying to reach, his net favorability is minus 20, 30% favorable to 50% unfavorable. Again, about 20% of people who don't yet have an opinion of Vance, but he's failing in the places that he's trying to make a priority, which I think is a factor too. Just overall, Vance is really polling poorly in Wisconsin, and this pick is looking worse and worse by the day.
Well, the other night he was on. We played it yesterday. This clip where Taylor Swift, of course, came out and endorsed the Harris Walz ticket after the debate on Tuesday night, and Vance was on some show saying, "I don't think that a millionaire endorsing anyone is going to make any difference. That she doesn't appreciate what regular Americans are like." Dude, who are you running with? The man who inherited hundreds of millions of dollars, who thinks you need to have a license, a photo ID to buy bread. You're right. He's so much more a man of the people than Trump. He's just like one of us.
It's always so weird when Republicans do this, right? They rip on any kind of celebrity endorsement, and then any celebrity says something favorable about Trump or the Republican Party. Like, they'll put him on stage. We had Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock and all these names at the RNC this year. Like, and Trump obviously himself was just basically a reality TV star before he became went into politics. So it's always so hypocritical when they make these comments.
We are going to continue recombobulating with Dan Shafer, so stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast Civic Media radio network.
Hoping for a relaxing weekend. Once I get strapped in the tube tent, wheels up and we'll be rocking. Getting out of frozen Wisconsin. I need you to recombobulate me. I want you to recombobulate me. I need you to recombobulate me. Won't somebody recombobulate me?
Matenaer On Air. Jay Matenaer and Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board. You can join us. You can call. You can text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. He joins us every Friday at this time from the Recombobulation area. And now Civic Media's political editor, Dan Shafer, is here talking about the latest poll from Marquette. And you wanted to talk, Greg, about undecided.
Yeah, we're, especially with the debates, and as we get closer and closer, we hear more and more about undecided voters. And Dan, you just brought that up a little bit earlier. And I was listening to I produced Pat Kreitlow's show, and he was talking to Mark Jacobs, who's a Chicago reporter, and they were talking about the notion of undecided voters talking in the realm of, well, I just need to know more about her. I need to know more about her. Well, at this point, there's been plenty, and if you wanted to know more, you're not reading it anyway.
You can find it.
Are you, in fact, an undecided voter? Or one, are you a voter in disguise? Or are you just looking for attention? Or what? But, Dan, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because that age-old thing of, like, I just don't know enough about them. Well, my dude, Google is right there. And she's been the vice president for nearly 4 years. She's a senator. She was AG. She's got
a record.
She's not brand new on the scene.
Well, and that's a great point. And, there are fewer and fewer undecided voters in every election, I think, because of how polarized the electorate is. And I think also, people know Donald Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
People aren't really having to do their research on who Donald Trump is at this point. So if there is any of the candidates that people are trying to still learn about, it is, of the two, I think it would still be Harris, obviously. But I think we also have to recognize that there are a lot of people who don't really pay attention to this stuff until it really gets close to an election. And I think one of the things that some political insiders will tell you about, congressional races or Senate races or something like that, is that nobody's paying attention until Labor Day. And so sometimes it will take until Labor Day of an election year. That's kind of the unofficial start of just like the sprint for some of these Senate and congressional races that people might not be paying attention to. Maybe that's the case for the presidential race too. But like you said, it's not hard to find. It's not hard to find information on these candidates, right?
It just seems to be a little lazy to me.
Yeah.
And if you were really concerned and you wanted to educate yourself about it, like Greg said, Google's right there, friends.
Yeah.
Just plug a couple questions in there. You'll probably get a few answers. In the time that we have left, let's talk about the U.S. Senate race between Tammy Baldwin and California guy, lake-sitting, ex-throwing Eric Hovde.
Wisconsin landowner Eric Hovde, as Greg likes to call him. The race has tightened up a little bit from where it had been. The previous poll showed Baldwin up by 7. This one shows her up by 4. And I think it was interesting in this poll that, typically in previous polls, Baldwin has been well ahead of the top of the ticket. She was, especially when it was with Joe Biden, she was polling well ahead of where Joe Biden was slightly ahead when it shifted over to Harris. And now it's pretty much even. So it was 52-48 with the Harris Trump, 52-48 with Baldwin Hovde. So I think that is notable that she's no longer kind of outrunning the top of the ticket. And Hovde has made some gains in certain places here. He's still definitely in the net negative on favorability, but it went from net minus 13 to net minus 9. People do know him a lot more than they did 2 months ago when it was like, 35-40% of voters didn't yet have an opinion of him. Now it's more in the 20 to 25% range. So the campaign, he is starting to introduce himself to people a little bit more. Those favorability numbers crept up ever so slightly. And the race has tightened a little bit. And I think that is, for one, I think it just shows that Wisconsin is always going to have close statewide elections on pretty much every race. But I think there's also, just an overall going to be some polls that are a little bit closer. And I think also, just looking back to the August poll was really bad for Hovde. And so there was kind of nowhere to go but up for him. And it was just really, really looking pretty bleak for him a month ago. And, so he's back in the race a little bit, but still, I think, you look through the crosstabs and look a lot of the data here, you'd certainly much rather be Baldwin. She's in this race. She's still certainly the favorite to win re-election, but Hovde did make some modest little gains here.
I guess I am curious as to why. I mean, has he all of a sudden developed a whole bunch of more qualifications that we didn't have before now? He's a rich guy. He came from a wealthy family. He kind of had a lot of help from the family, and not to take away his I'm sure he worked hard and all those things. But what's the draw to Eric Hovde?
I think it's just the natural polarization of Wisconsin. I just think
He's
we
not
had there's
Baldwin.
Exactly.
He's
yeah,
not
right.
Baldwin.
Exactly.
Right. And so, and one of the things that they added in this particular poll was asking 3 questions about how these certain phrases describe each candidate. So one of them was on whether they are, quote, committed to serving the interests of Wisconsin. That's where Baldwin polled the best. The majority, a huge majority of voters say that she is committed to serving the interest of Wisconsin. That's the place. I think that's kind of the hallmark of who she is as a senator. That type of constituent service. We're always hearing news about dollars she's bringing home for infrastructure, for healthcare, for all sorts of different things. I think that's going to be a real strength for her. Where they were closer to even was the phrase, quote, will work to solve our national problems. So I think people who are upset with just like the larger national environment politically might be gravitating a little bit towards Hovde because he's not the incumbent. He's campaigning on doing something differently, and people who have real problems with where we are headed from a national standpoint might be gravitating more towards Hovde, just because of the nature of he's the challenger and she's the incumbent in this race.
That's all it takes for some people. It's not. I mean, that's what the ads are running now. It's not. He's not Baldwin.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the big claim to fame. Brendan from New Jersey on the line. Good morning, Brendan. Real quickly, we don't have a whole lot of time left.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I couldn't decide what was more despicable, bringing the clown Laura Loomer to the 9/11 ceremony or what he did at Arlington. People need to wake up. Good Lord. I mean, the delusion and denial is incredible. But hey, listen, you guys have a great weekend.
Thanks a
Thank you,
lot,
Brendan.
Brendan.
Thanks
Really appreciate you listening. Thanks for calling in. We're going to do another round of, before you joined us, Dan, we were doing all the best people, talking about Stephen Miller. And we're going to talk a little bit about Laura Loomer, speaking of all the best people, after the 11 o'clock news. Subscribe to the Recombobulation Area. It is worth every penny. Dan Shafer. We will see you next Friday. Thank you so very much, my friend.
Thanks, Jane. Be well.
Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join us, you can call, you can text. It's the same number, 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon hates we continue to call Twitter.
We always enjoy a nice, robust audience when Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area comes
Absolutely.
here. And this day is unlike, it's none better.
It's not an exception.
Words are hard, Jane, on
I know,
Friday.
words are hard. We see a big bounce on our stream numbers when Dan joins us.
It's just Shafer bump. But I'm just putting this out here to all the people. Hi, you can talk to us. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, share your comments on the live stream. There's a little comment button there.
Yeah.
You can click on that and jump on the live stream and join the conversation.
We'd love to have Brandon would love to have you. Andrew, I know Tony would love to have you.
Absolutely. We would love to have you join the conversation. Speaking of conversations,
oh boy,
if you would like to have a face-to-face conversation,
yes.
Tomorrow I will be out at the Waukesha Farmers Market in the parking lot of the Waukesha State Bank right along the river in downtown Waukesha. I will be out there tomorrow from 9 to 11. Look for the Civic Media tent. We have a fabulous wheel of prizes. We've got 2 chairs. If I annoy you, if there's something you would like to say, long form.
Oh, I'll be there.
Long form. Come on down tomorrow, 9 to 11. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. We can split a scone of peace, and you can speak to your heart's content. Come on out.
Scone. We need a scones of peace theme.
We'll work on
like
that.
The scones up and there's peace.
Scones of peace on me tomorrow, Waukesha Farmers Market. Come on by. I'll be down there from 9 to 11. The market itself runs from 8 until noon. All right. We started off last hour with a round of all the best people. We are going to continue with all the best people too, talking about Donald Trump when he was first elected. Talked about he would surround himself with only the best people, all the best people, all the most qualified people. And unfortunately, most of those qualified best people got fired, resigned, left, quit, were shamed out, pushed out, whatever. So he is still going to surround himself, I have no doubt, with more new all the best people. Stephen Miller was our topic last hour.
Oh, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, for
best person.
He's really something. Laura Loomer
is
now very, very tight in Donald Trump's circle.
I mean, like super close. Like
she's traveling on the plane with him.
She's sleeping at Mar-a-Lago, and these are confirmed. This is not conjecture, nor is it rumor.
That she's staying there.
Yes.
There are some pictures. There are quite a few pictures of Donald Trump with Laura Loomer looking pretty cozy.
And he's not a toucher.
No, he's not a touchy. Well, only if it's unwanted, apparently.
Fair point.
Touchy-feely.
There it is.
So we thought we'd look a little closer at Laura Loomer and what makes her among all the best people. Senator Lindsey Graham and Marjorie Taylor Howler Monkey Green fired off criticisms of Laura Loomer after she has been spotted twice with the former president in just the last couple of days, warning that Loomer's presence could trip up the ex-president's re-election chances. Marjorie Taylor says, I've spoken with President Trump, but I'm not going to go into details of our personal conversation. In response, Laura Loomer, the measured, calm, reasonable person that she is, went nuclear, essentially, accusing both Green and Lindsey Graham of not being MAGA enough, and then essentially saying, Lindsey, we know you're gay. We know you're gay. Why don't you just say it and get it over with?
Good Lord. I mean, but here's the thing. I will say this, that I disagree with MTG on one thing. I think Laura Loomer perfectly represents the milieu of that campaign, which is shoot and then aim, then explain, and then walk away and take no responsibility.
And never apologize.
Never apologize. Everything is right when I say it. There are no facts. Laura Loomer is maybe, we you talk about the Constitution being a growing document that grows and adapts over time. She is the adaptation of the MAGA movement. She is the new incarnation, like a Terminator robot, where this is the version.
This is the latest incarnation.
Exactly. This is like Mark 40. You know what I mean?
Right.
And MTG, is she MAGA enough?
She might not be. Again, Laura Loomer's in the inner circle now.
Yeah.
She's staying at Mar-a-Lago.
And Lindsey Graham has been blamed the border bill failing on Donald Trump. He called the debate a disaster. I believe that might not be the exact word, but he said it was terrible. You're criticizing dear leader.
Well, that's enough to get you kicked out of MAGA.
Yeah.
Because you've said this many times. The line of loyalty continues to move.
Correct.
And eventually, you might be MAGA now.
Yeah.
Next week, you might not be MAGA enough.
And if Laura Loomer is the standard right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You know who's really taking some heat now from Laura Loomer?
Who?
Charlie Sykes.
Oh, that guy who architected this whole thing.
Well, he kind of set the table and poured the wine for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I was working with Charlie at the time when Donald Trump called into his show. And I disagree with Charlie on so many things.
Yeah.
So many things. But he handled it beautifully.
Yeah.
He wasn't rude.
Okay.
He wasn't angry.
Mm-hmm.
He just essentially said, Mr. Trump, here in Wisconsin, we do something called Wisconsin Nice. And I don't think you get that.
No.
So Charlie Sykes was on Morning Joe yesterday morning. And this is what Charlie Sykes said. It's extraordinary. Laura Loomer is not just a bigot. She's a freak. She is at the far edges of the fever swamp. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene described her as racist and offensive. And yet Trump is associating with her.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kinds of people who have his ear right now.
Yeah.
Yes. So at this moment in the campaign, we're less than 2 months away from the election. Donald Trump is associating with some of the craziest, weirdest figures on the right.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable statement.
Remember when we were upset that he named Rex Tillerson Secretary of State? We were like, oh, the oil guy, I can't believe. Now that is adorable.
Yeah.
Who's going to be Secretary of State if he becomes president? Who's going to be in that cabinet? And by the way, they'll all be acting secretaries.
Right. They won't have to get confirmed by anybody.
Never, because he wants to fire and hire as he sees, because there's nothing makes a man happier than being at a rally or firing somebody.
Yeah. So Laura Loomer responded.
Oh, boy.
To Charlie Sykes. Charlie Sykes, you're a washed-up radio host with an obsession with getting Trump. You lost your career in radio because you're an insufferable never Trump C-word who couldn't read the room, and you lost your audience because they abandoned you when you viciously attacked Trump with nonstop lies in 2016. Called Trump a racist today because he spoke out about animal cruelty in Springfield. You called him racist for posting a meme with a cat. Why would you defend third world invaders who are abusing animals? Who's the freak? You know what you are, Charlie? You're an oxygen thief. Ow.
I'd like to respond to the words of Miss Loomer.
Ow.
You're still the freak. You're still the freak, without a doubt.
You have the crown.
She is literally a person. When I look at her, I'm like, there's so much happening in those eyes. There's so much anger and just poison happening in those eyes that I kind of be like, what happened? Let's talk. And I mean that. I'm not being funny right now. Every time I see a person who is that extreme, I always want to know
what happened.
What happened?
Hurt people. Hurt people.
Exactly.
Charlie responded in his Substack. By now, you'd think Laura Loomer would be used to be calling an anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, racist grotesquerie, as well as conspiracist nutjob and an overall vile human being. You would have thought she would have developed a thickish hide.
Oh, God, no. No.
But apparently not.
Those individuals, go with me on this. The skin layers they have, together, it still wouldn't be as much. Like, they're so thin-skinned. You put them all together, they're still so sensitive.
Oh,
There's no getting
they can't take any criticism. They can't take any pushback.
No.
Look at Stephen Miller freaking out when that reporter tried to get him to cite the source of his numbers when he's talking about crime in Venezuela.
Yeah.
How dare you question me?
And let's not even talk about jokes. They can't take a joke.
Because they can't recognize a joke.
No.
Don't forget, Laura Loomer tweeted recently that should Kamala Harris be elected, the White House will smell of curry.
Yes.
She continues to insist that she wasn't questioning if the 9/11 attacks were an inside job, although she did share a video on her Twitter feed that used that phrase. She is a self-identified Islamophobe. She got kicked off of Twitter for it a couple of years back, and then, of course, Elon reinstated her. She restates her belief that Al-Qaeda was to blame for the attack, but she has been questioning whether or not 9/11 was an inside job for years.
And this brings us back to a question that Jane and I have been asking for months now to all those supporters out there, all those MAGA people. This is what you want as your representation. These are the ideas that you want to glom onto. You don't get to separate yourself from this. When you say you are MAGA, when you are a Trump fan, these are the people who represent your beliefs and ideas.
Yes.
This is why people assume that you are a racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist, all those things, because these are the people who are talking on your platform. So how do you square that? How do you square this sort of behavior against the American dream, the idea of hard work and bootstraps and personal responsibility?
Joyful warriors.
Yeah.
Tom from West Dallas listening here in WAUK. I totally believe after the election, Trump will get divorced and either Laura Loomer or Alina Habba will be his next wife.
Fourth time's a charm.
I think they're auditioning right now.
Oh,
Stay
boy.
close. We'll keep this going. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, resident young person Calvin on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join the conversation. Call or text, same number, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter, talking about all the best people that Donald Trump surrounds himself continually with. Laura Loomer, one of the latest. She is a screaming Islamophobe, homophobe, phobe.
Yeah,
I think it's just, she's an all-around phobe. And it's important that people realize that these are the people who have the ear of the man who wants to be president of the United States.
Yep. Yeah.
She has claimed that 9/11 was an inside job. Who did Donald Trump take with him to the 9/11 memorial this week? Laura Loomer.
That's so disgusting.
And the families of the 9/11 victims should be infuriated. Mark from Prairie du Sac is on the line. Good morning, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. And Laura Loomer, I mean, it is just sad. I mean, for these people, what has gone wrong with them? I mean, the song by America from 1974, this is Lonely People. I mean, that if they think life has passed them by, so this is what they latch on to Donald Trump. I mean, it is just sad. I mean, the people that embrace this man, I mean, that I don't know if I brought it up on this show, but on my walk that I take my dog on, one of the houses I go by has some Trump signs out, and he's got his Farmall tractor, a little bit bigger than the one I drove around when I was a kid. That he's got on there by the Farmall logo on there, locally hated. And for people that feel that way, I mean, it is just sad. It is just, you know, they've cut themselves off of I don't want to say, maybe that polite society isn't quite the right word, but of society itself. I mean, of society that's out there ready to embrace just about everybody. But I mean, that it is just, when you embrace that kind of animus toward your fellow man, I don't know what to do about it.
Well, when you're so angry,
Yeah.
and that's all that motivates you, right, Mark? It's anger and hatred. It's not healthy. And I've said too, there are many, many broken people.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of broken people. It's heartbreaking to see. But this is not a healthy way to channel anything.
No.
There's a woman that I follow on Twitter who used to be MAGA and has left MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this quote from her. She said, "Since I've got out of MAGA, I've learned not to respond to things purely in an emotional way, especially if it makes me angry. My anger is what led me down those dark paths of conspiracy theories and just conspiracies in general. So if you allow everything to be directed by your anger, you're going to end up in a dark place."
And it doesn't get better.
Better.
You don't surround yourself with good people. You surround yourself with people who are as angry,
If not
more angry, and you become influenced. And everything that makes you feel good becomes truth, and everything that challenges your beliefs is false. Lies.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join us. Mike from West Bend is on the line. Good morning, Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I also enjoy those comments from Mark. I will give you a suggestion, though. I like to listen to both sides. I mostly vote Democratic. I'm very independent. But what I don't hear, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, okay?
Okay.
Whether this station, I am sick of hearing Trump bashing all day. I want to know what Kamala Harris, what her focus is, what her plans, what should I be excited about? Because I sat there yesterday doing paperwork. I'm 75 years old. My prescriptions are up 17%. My electric bill's up 28%. I just want to know what her ideas are and hope for our future. I want to see a policy. I've gone online. I've read her stuff. There's nothing of substance. She's never on TV. And I thought, well, okay, listen to WAUK. They're going to all vote for Kamala. We'll talk about Kamala and promote her, because I don't want to hear Trump bashing. I got friends that are Democrats, and Mark just talked about hate. Oh, my God, I got friends that are Democrats that are so hateful. Their whole life is filled up with that. And
I appreciate that, Mike. I appreciate you listening and for calling. I do want to just correct you for one thing. It's pronounced Kamala.
Yeah.
I do think it's been long enough now that we can all learn how to pronounce her name.
Yeah.
It's Kamala.
Kamala.
And did you watch the debate? Have you watched any of her rallies?
Her CNN interview.
Her CNN interview.
Go to her website. There is a whole list of policies there, Mike. You can find out what she's for. You're talking about prescriptions. she and Joe Biden have helped bring down the price of prescriptions, and they want to keep doing that.
Trust me, in Project 2025, they are going to make sure that Medicare is not allowed to negotiate drug prices.
And you know what, Mike? Maybe you are right. Maybe we need to talk also about the policy plans of both candidates. And we can talk at length about the things that Kamala wants to do, which is taking all of the successes she's had with Joe Biden, infrastructure, prescription drugs, all of those things, helping to boost the economy to a ridiculous health.
Bringing back manufacturing jobs.
Yes, creating tens of millions of jobs. We need to talk about that. Maybe we do. And thank you for calling, and thank you for telling us that. We focus on that good, but then we have to also talk about the policies of Donald Trump, which are none. And if we sound like we're bashing him, it's because we are being truthful about the things he says and he does to other people.
And the people he surrounds himself with.
Yeah.
We're not making this up.
No.
And that's why I think if you feel that you don't know enough about Kamala Harris's policies, I still think that there are many people who are Trump supporters who have no idea what he supports, because essentially he has no policies.
No.
He has concepts of plans.
He very well admitted to he wouldn't talk about his healthcare plan. Why?
Because he doesn't have one.
No, because he's not president yet, Jane.
Oh, that's why. So he never thinks about anything related to the presidency until after he's been elected.
That's how you do it.
Except for negotiating peace between Russia and Ukraine. Well, that he could do before he takes office.
Yeah, exactly.
If he wanted to.
But Mike, you're absolutely right. Maybe that's what we can do between now and the election.
We'll talk more policy.
We'll have people on who want to talk about the policy.
Sure.
We can inform you, but we can only do so much, buddy. Go to her website, go to a website. And go to his website too. Go to all the candidates' websites, check out their policies because they do exist. I've looked at them. It's not something that's unavailable. And she is very available on television. That's all we can do.
I don't know what else.
We've led you to the water. The rest is up to you, buddy.
There is info out there if you look.
Yep.
All right. News is coming up next. We're going to light it up when we return. We are talking to the EAA. Ed Becerra is a pilot. Tracy Miller helps run the Young Eagles program. If you have a young person in your household who's interested in aviation as a career, you are going to want to stick around for this. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Well,
Hello?
you?
Yep, it's Ed.
It's Tracy. We're waiting for them.
Sounds good.
I didn't get a glass of water. Oh, well.
I made sure I had my water and my coffee just in case.
I don't have either. Oh, well. On the
Hi, Ed and Tracy. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, and Tracy, it looks like there's an issue with your camera. Is there anything? Could you try
Let me see.
reconnecting it?
Yeah, it's a new computer, so let me see if there's a button I need to.
All right. Otherwise, yeah, no worries. Thank you.
I can try. See if that helps.
Don't want to be standing here with this ticket for this outbound plane, 'cause I've been here before and somehow this doesn't feel the same.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the Calvinator on the board, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. You can call, you can text at 855-752-4842 or leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Very excited to have our next two guests with us. Ed Becerra, I hope I'm saying that right, Ed, is a pilot.
Got it.
And he is associated with the EAA, and Tracy Miller, also associated with the EAA, and you help run the Young Eagles program. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where should we start? Ed, we'll start with you on why should young people want to get into aviation, not beyond being a pilot, because there's so many other things involved in the whole aviation industry, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, flying airplanes is really cool. I'm very lucky to be able to go and get up and fly pretty much whenever I want, since we do own our own airplane. But the aviation industry is so diverse. There's so many different things you can do. A lot of times, people think that the only path to being a commercial pilot is by flying for the airlines, but there's also corporate. There's also like agriculture flying, flight instructors. There's just so much to do in the aviation industry. aside from just being a commercial pilot flying, big metal buses in the air.
As much as I would love to do
There's
that,
also
because
a
I
lot
think.
of non.
Sorry, Tracy, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's also a lot of non-flying aviation and aerospace careers that people don't normally think about. There's air traffic controllers, there's baggage handlers, there's the people on the ground that tell the planes turn right, turn left. There are aerospace engineers at NASA. Uh, there's just plethora of things that people can do.
Tracy, when you work with the Young Eagles program, does everyone come in wanting to be a pilot? Is that pretty much the main driving factor? I would love to be a pilot. I think that would be one of the coolest things in the world. I know I couldn't handle the math. For me, that's why I do what I do, because I don't math.
That's why they make computers.
That's why they make computers?
Yeah. You could be a
Are
pilot.
you telling me that I could barely add, girl? Are you sure you want me to be a pilot?
Math was not my strong suit, but Ed, I mean, I haven't taken the test in more years than I plan to discuss, but that's why they have calculators and computers.
But you were a pilot,
When kids
Tracy.
come in for, I am, yes, I'm grounded right now because of medical reasons, but I was a pilot and I struggled more with the weather part of learning to be a pilot, the clouds and the weather fronts than I did with the math part. And that was just where my barrier was. But I really believe, and this is why I work with these kids, I really believe that there's no one who can't do something. We have a rally tomorrow, and no, don't go and register because it's all full up. But we have a rally tomorrow, and I'm expecting 48 screaming people who are going to become my BFFs to come in that door, and they're going to come in and they're going to be clean slates, and they're going to go to a ground school class, and high school kids teaching kids are going to teach them some of the very basic things. What keeps a plane in the air? And yes, we all know it's money, but besides that, what keeps a plane in the air? What is lift? What is drag? Those types of things. And they have little models and tricks they use to show the kids. The kids are going to get an opportunity to get on our simulators. We have 2 professional grade simulators. Ed helped set them up, so he knows more about them than I do. But we let the kids get on the simulators because it's okay if you crash if you're on the simulator. And then they get a ride in a plane. And whoever sits in front gets to fly. And they come back and the looks on their face, we take pictures right when they climb out, and the looks on their face are amazing. And they want to know when can they go again.
They must just be beaming when they get off that plane. I can only imagine the glow off these kids.
Oh yeah. And sometimes, every now and then you get one that really, really doesn't want to. Wants to try it but doesn't want to try it. It's a no shame zone. If they get in the plane and they taxi to the end of the runway and the kid says, "Time out, I don't want to do this," that's fine. They taxi back. No harm, no foul. Put another kid in.
That's great. How many
you
of
know,
these events do you do a year, Tracy, for the young Eagles program?
We do one per month, March through November, weather permitting. Our weather doesn't always permit March and November.
Sure.
We got once this year we couldn't fly because of high winds, and another time we had to stop early because the winds increased. And we had to explain that to the kids because they don't understand. It's sunny, it's clear, let's go flying. And Ed can speak to the dangers of that more than I can because he has a small, lightweight plane. But we do this monthly. There is a website called, it's a national website called youngeaglesday.org or .com. And you go there, you put in your zip code, and we have kids that the families drive up from Aurora to fly with us.
Wow.
Wow.
we're probably the only chapter that does the ground school to the extent that we do, and that involves the kids in the science and the math to the extent that we do. We have a very large group of families from the western suburbs of Chicago who know each other and all try and register every month. And, you can't fly every month, but we have people who bring their foreign exchange students. So
Where do
it's
you
a
fly
wide
out of?
variety.
Where do you fly out of, Tracy? Where is your ground school? Where do people attend the ground school?
Racine Baton Airport. We're on the grounds of Baton Airport, but we have our own hangar north of the terminal building. One of our chapter members years ago was the late Sam Johnson, whose name is very
Wow.
familiar around Wisconsin. Yeah, and he gave seed money to start the Young Eagles program to EAA National, and he also gave seed money to the chapter to build our hangar, and they built it with blood, sweat, and tears.
If you're just
But
joining us, Tracy Miller is our guest. She works with the Young Eagles program related to the EAA, and Ed Becerra is a pilot. And we're talking about the Young Eagles program and all the opportunities within the aviation industry.
How long has the Young Eagles program been around? I mean, you said Sam Johnson put in seed money, so we're talking quite a few decades.
92.
But is it before that?
1990. It's 1992.
Oh,
And and I can give you a number, I believe, as of last month. Well, I'll have to find it, but I could give you how many millions of kids have had this opportunity around the world.
That's fantastic. We'll
And
make sure we
it's not
include.
just
We'll make sure
Okay,
that we
there's
include the
also
link in the show notes when the show is over. So if people want to
Okay.
go register for future events,
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
have that information there.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Ed, what was
I
it
also
that
want
got
to
you
mention our
into?
aviation.
Oh, sorry.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
Tracy.
mention our Aviation Explorer program for high school age kids who are interested in a career in aviation. That's all.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Ed, what got you into flying? What got you involved in this program?
Well, actually, I owe a lot of that to my dad. When I was a kid, my dad and I would watch Top Gun and blare the sound, the stereo as loud as it could possibly go, and annoy the heck out of my mom. But I didn't grow up. I grew up not that far from O'Hare Airport, so we would always see the planes flying over the house. So my dad was really the one that really got me into aviation. And my grandparents had a cottage not that far from Oshkosh. So we would go to the museum up there. EAA's HQ is up there in Oshkosh. And I got to take my first airplane ride through Young Eagles there in Oshkosh. And so ever since then, the fire was really lit under me. And that kind of what got me into aviation and decided to at that time I decided to want to do it as a career. Unfortunately, some things happened along the way, and I just do it as a hobby now.
That's a pretty cool hobby.
That's an amazing
I'm just
hobby.
gonna say it's it's a little more exciting than trading cards and whatever. That's a pretty cool hobby, Ed.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and doing the Young Eagles program is awesome, especially since that's how I got my start into aviation, and getting to see kids have that same look on their face like I did when I was 13 or 14 years old. That it's just the coolest.
And it is a long process to get licensed as a pilot. I mean, you certainly have to put in many hours in order before you can fly solo, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's no limit per se as to how many hours you need before you solo. I believe you just have to be 16 years old, and it matters when your flight instructor decides that you're ready to go out on your own. But the minimum age is 16 to actually solo an aircraft. The minimum number of hours that you need to become a pilot to become a private pilot is 40 hours, but the national average is probably around 70 to 80. I was what they call a 120-hour student. I picked it up. I started doing it when I just got out of high school, and then unfortunately some things happened throughout life, and I just wasn't able to complete it. But then back in 2018, I finally got my license, and it's literally been one of the best things that I've ever done in my entire life. And also to joining the chapter. I mean, there's EAA chapters all throughout the country and actually throughout the entire world. And some of my best friends that I have in life have been through that I've met through the chapter.
How many hours? Okay, you're a pilot. If you're gonna take you're gonna fly with a new pilot. How many hours would you want that person to have before you're gonna fly with them?
So as long as they're a certificated pilot, meaning that they actually took the check ride with the FAA examiner, I would have no. I would definitely fly with them. The flight, that's the important role in the flight instructor's job, is when they feel like you're ready to go and take your test to become a pilot, then that's enough for me to know that I think that they're a safe pilot. On the other hand, it's how comfortable does that new pilot feel taking a new passenger? So as long as they're comfortable, then I'm comfortable.
And Tracy, going back to all of the other jobs involved in the aviation industry beyond being a pilot, certainly mechanics, I would think aviation mechanics, that's got to be a pretty well-paying position.
It is, and they estimate that the United States is going to be short 30,000 aviation mechanics by the next 10 years. Chapter 838 provides scholarships for airframe and power plant mechanics at MSOE every year. And we also provide private pilot scholarships because we realize that pilot training is a big chunk of money. And the national provides some scholarships and we fundraise to provide some scholarships. And, Ed talks about the full circle about being a young eagle and then giving young eagles rides. Our very first scholarship that we gave is a gentleman who just last month qualified as a commercial instructor, and he's coming back home to fly young eagles tomorrow.
Oh,
That's
is really
fantastic.
cool.
Love that.
That is really, really cool. Well, we will put
Yeah.
all of the links in our show notes. If you have a young person, maybe it's just you and
Yeah.
you would like to find out more about the Young Eagles, about the EAA, how you can learn more, how you can get involved. Tracy Miller and Ed Becerra, thank you so very, very much for your time this morning. It's been really interesting. Safe travels, blue skies.
Thanks
Thank you.
for having us.
Stay with us. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network.
These broken wings are gonna leave me here to stand my ground. You can have this ticket for that lonely plane that's flying out. I don't wanna be standing here, and I don't wanna be talking here, and I don't really care who's to blame. 'Cause if love won't fly on its own free will, it's gonna catch that outbound plane. If love won't fly on its own free will, it's gonna catch that
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. You can call, you can text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We were just talking to Tracy and Ed from the EAA, talking about the Young Eagles program. What a cool opportunity.
I know, and I wanted to ask them the question, is there a Eagles program for, like, gray-beard people or gray-haired people, or maybe like a...
Brendan says on the live stream, maybe there's a crusty old Eagles program. I would join that, the crusty old Eagles.
I feel like that whole interview was just about Jane figuring out whether or not she could become a pilot.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You were so incredulous. Like, the woman says, the computers, that they're like, I don't know. What are you, Laura Loomer or something? That's a reference.
She's like, that's why there's calculators. What's wrong with you? So that was hilarious. But again, what a cool hobby, right? What are you doing this weekend? I'm going to go fly.
Yeah, I'm going to go visit my friends up in, Montana. I'm going to fly there.
Yeah, we're going to Montana for lunch.
Oh, that'd be fun.
But we will get all the links in the show notes after the show is over. It takes Greg about a half an hour to do that. He does a really good job. So go to civicmedia.us after the show, click on shows, click on Matenaer On Air, and that will take you to every single episode of the show, going all the way back to the beginning.
Pretty much.
There
are some missing days we found.
Oh,
I
yes?
don't know what happened, but we'll figure it out. If not, then... But yes, I would say 98.9%
of the episodes are there.
Yes.
Reminder as well, Waukesha Farmers Market tomorrow. It runs from 8 to noon in the parking lot of the Waukesha State Bank, right along the Fox River in downtown Waukesha. Civic Media will be there. I will be there tomorrow from 9 to 11. Stop by. I would love to meet you. We have a fabulous wheel of prizes. If you want to chat, I would love to talk to you. I mean it. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. We'll split a scone of peace, and you can talk at me. I mean, we'll talk together for as long as makes you happy. Come on down. And it is a great farmer's market. I mean that very honestly.
Yeah.
If you've never been, there's all kinds of food stalls, and they have flowers. You can get your dog's nails clipped. You can get your knives sharpened. There's food, and there's food trucks, and there's music, and it's a great farmer's market. So come on out tomorrow morning. I will be there 9 to 11, the farmer's market tomorrow, 8 until noon in downtown Waukesha.
Jane, you know what people can do if they want to also listen to the show?
What can they do?
They can download the Civic Media app and listen to us wherever they are. They can go on there. They can click on WAUK and listen to us. They can also download the show as a podcast. So let's say you're on the move. You're busy, got things to do.
Sure.
You can't listen to the show, Jane, right now because you're on the show.
Right.
You want to listen to it later? Go on your favorite podcast distribution center of choice, find Matenaer On Air, download it, subscribe to it, and you can listen to it anytime.
At your convenience.
At your convenience.
Whatever is easy for you.
And we say things that get on the internets. There's a place called social media. You can follow us on social media. Matenaer On Air. Now I'm going to spell it for you correctly this time, Calvin. I'll spell it correctly this time. Matenaer.
Well done.
On Air. You can follow us on Twitter because this house calls it Twitter.
Yes.
You can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow Civic Media on YouTube as well as Twitter. You can see us live streaming. You can chat with us. You can send us cool stuff. But come be our friend.
Be our friend. Download the app.
Yeah.
Especially starting next week. We have a new contest.
Oh, Mother Glory.
And you're going to have to do it through the app.
Yes.
So if you do not have the Civic Media app yet, I would highly encourage you to download it this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Because starting on Monday, you're going to have a chance at some really nice prizes.
And that app is only $2 million.
It's free.
Ah, darn it.
Our app is free, Civic Media app. What is happening at the Tap this weekend?
Oh, we got 2 shows, Friday and Saturday, 7:30. We got Kate Willett coming through town. I believe she's from New York. She's been on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and a bunch of other Comedy Central as well. And the lineup is going to be fantastic. My friend Kristen Leidy, who I actually interviewed for Matenaer On Air for the Labor Day show.
Oh, really?
So if you heard her interview talking about being a part of WEAC and being an organizing director, this is another side of her. She is a stand-up comic as well.
Fantastic.
Recorded a record called Disassociation Vacation. It's wonderful. She's wonderful. And then Louisa Noy is hosting. She is a comic by way of Austin, lives in Milwaukee by way of Germany. So it's going to be a really, really fun show. But that Friday and Saturday. And then guess what, Jane? On Saturday, Comedy Sports, 8 p.m., the Laughing Liberally show, I will be performing.
Really?
I know. It's crazy pants.
Along with Comedy Sports?
No, I won't be performing a show there. I'm no longer a paid professional player there, but I will be doing a show in their side room called The Garage. Laughing Liberally is a mixed comedy show as far as like you're going to see stand-up, sketch, and then in there you will also see an interview with a community leader. So he's
cool.
interviewed all sorts. In fact, I think I saw Angela Lang interviewed there once. But yeah, Matthew Filipovich, who puts the whole thing together, he's actually been on the show as well. He hosts the show, and his sketch comedy team, the Accountants of Homeland Security, will do some sketches, and I'll be doing stand-up along with Chastity Washington and some other great. Chastity is the best stand-up comedian in the city, period.
Well, you heard it here.
Bar none. So you can come on out. You can go to laughingliberallyMKE.com for tickets. Laughing Tap for tickets for the shows at the club. There's a lot going on. There's always comedy happening in Milwaukee.
And we will get those links in our show notes as well. So if you want to check out the Laughing Tap or Laughing Liberally, those links will be there. Go support our local comedians.
Yeah, please.
It's great to still have live comedy.
Yeah.
Because we almost lost it for a couple of years there.
We did lose. We lost it. Well, yeah, we lost it for a little bit.
Yep, we did.
Terrible.
And I hope to see you tomorrow morning at the Waukesha Farmers Market.
Scones of Peace.
Scones of Peace, 9 to 11. The market itself from 8 until noon. Look for the Civic Media tent. Stop by. Spin the wheel of prizes for an item that could but probably won't change the course of your entire life. I hate to oversell.
Wow. Okay. I guess.
Stay close. News is coming up next. Thank you, Greg and Calvin, and thank you to all of our engineers. Without you guys, absolutely nothing works. Thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy over the weekend and you get the chance to share it. News coming up. Then Todd Alba. Keep it right here on this Civic Media Radio Network. We'll see you Monday.